I personally think that the Ukrainians are the most likely culprit. I mean, in the sense that they're the ones that have the most to gain, and they're also the ones that are the most risk acceptant. I mean, this war is an existential risk to them, and they're willing to do almost anything to ensure that their country still exists. And if, the NATO alliance starts to break, that's an utter disaster for them. They need to make sure that energy can't go to the Germans going forward. They don't want that to be a possibility because it's their future, literally their future as human beings, that's on the line. Now, the main problem with the Ukrainian argument is, do they have the capabilities, the technical capabilities? And 6 months ago, I would have been very skeptical. But when I was also wouldn't have thought they'd be able to blow up the Kursk bridge connecting Russia to Crimea, and they did. And that was pretty sophisticated operationally. They also, of course, attempted to assassinate Alexander Dugin, ended up killing his daughter just outside Russia, also pretty sophisticated assassination just outside Moscow. They also have been involved in shelling the Zaporizhia nuclear plant that was occupied in Ukraine, the largest nuclear plant in Ukraine, but occupied by the Russians. I mean, if those shells had gone awry, you could have had a nuclear accident. So the willingness of the Ukrainians to take big risks is significant. I suspect they're the most likely. Could it have been with some NATO support? For example, Poland, who knows that if it wasn't for the Ukrainians fighting, they'd be fighting themselves. They're therefore by far the most hawkish in orientation towards Russia. That is plausible. They're the ones that have been pushing the hardest for getting, fighter jets to the Ukrainians to fight the Russians, for example. It's certainly possible. The Americans, of course, would have the most operational capability to pull off such an attack, and that is at face what makes Hersh's article very interesting. But again, at least as he's argued it, strikes me as completely wrong and frankly, very irresponsible.